Thank you, Rochelle. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's been about 2.5 months since last time I was here. Last time I was in this room, I was trying to tell people about the questionnaires and trying to get them motivated to do those questionnaires. Well, I'm not going to take full credit for that, but we had a tremendous response. A lot of that credit does go to Human Resources because I know that they were going in and asking people to participate after I left. So we had an overwhelming response, which led to a wealth of information for us over the course of our study. So some of these slides I'm going to show you are a combination of what I showed you last time I was here and also what I showed the department heads during their portion of the presentation. But just to give you an idea, again, our company is Management Advisory Group. We're the ones that have been working on this study for the last couple of months. These are the services that we provide, and this is what we've been working on over the course of the last couple of months. So what I want to talk about today is a little bit of a review of what we've done and also still a little bit of a preview of what's to come. So I want to talk about today, just to remind you what the goals and the scope of the project were, talk a little bit more about the study itself, hit on how the questionnaire process went, talk a little bit about the market survey, and then just give you an update on the timeline and where we stand as of today. So for the scope of the project, we were looking originally at 93 positions, and that broke down into 81 individual job titles. We went over getting the most current information possible directly from the questionnaires, which again, having that huge participation from you all went a long ways in that regard. We took a look at your internal equity, which is where we took all of those job titles that were part of the study, all 81 of them, and we ranked them internally based on their duties and their responsibilities. We were able to get a very firm grasp on that based on the information we got back from the questionnaires. We also went out and did a market survey so we could find out where you stood in the market to make sure that you were competitive. Ultimately, all of this information that we've already gathered and we put together is going to lead to us coming up with an implementation plan that can be put into play by the township. We weren't here to evaluate individual performance or capabilities. We focused directly on the jobs themselves and the core duties and the core responsibilities that went with each job. Like I said earlier, we cannot guarantee a salary increase based on the results of the survey, of the study. But we also did not recommend any type of salary decreases as a result of our study. So just to give you an update on the job profile questionnaire itself. Out of 93 employees, we received a completed questionnaire from 90 employees. For us in the field that I'm in, that's remarkable. That's territory that we don't see very often. So again, that goes back to your HR department and your leadership and the fact that they were so interested in getting as many responses as possible. I would send out these reports 2 and 3 times a week to Rochelle, and she would look at that report, and if there were people that were lagging, she let them know, and we were able to meet those goals and exceed those goals back in June. Market survey. The reason this is so important is, again, we needed to find out how competitive you all are within the local market. So what we did is we came up with a list of organizations, municipalities, and counties based on whether they were a competitor. A competitor is somebody that's close enough by to where if you were able to receive better compensation from them, you'd be willing to drive the extra miles to get that compensation. Or they were a peer, which means that they were either similar in size or structure, and we were able to use information from them as well. Well, for you all, most of those people fell into the competitor category. So this is the list of the organizations that we compared Canton Township to. We got back information from all 11 of them. We also sprinkled in some information that we got from the private sector based on what we get from the Department of Labor and ONET. So that's what gave us our baseline for the market survey. Now, this is just a little bit of a flow chart. I'm going to show you a little bit more detail here in just a second. But everything on the left deals with internal equity. That's where we initially had our HR meetings and our department head meetings back in May. We did the questionnaires that I mentioned. Based on those questionnaires, we came up with our analysis, and that's how we started working on the internal equity side of the equation. For external equity, again, the market survey that I just showed you for those 11 municipalities and counties, analysis of that. Once we get those analyses put together, that's where we started working on the salary schedules, new adjustments to the pay scales, organizational cost calculations, and then overall implementation costs for the entire township. So those sections in that middle column at the bottom here, that's where we're at right now. We just came up with our draft report. That's why I'm back in town. I'm talking to all the department heads. We're going over all of their personnel line by line to make sure that we've addressed all of their concerns. We had taken this study about as far as we could take it on paper by doing the questionnaires and by analyzing the market data. So we're here in person to make sure that we're getting it down to the department level and just kind of fine tuning what we have now. So I'm going to take the initial draft report that we're working on yesterday and today. I'm going to take the results that I get back from the department heads back to our office, and we're going to make a final adjustment to that, basically a revised draft report. That will get reviewed one last time to make sure everything is correct, and that's what we're going to use for our final report. So just a little bit of a breakdown. Again, we started the project initiation back in May when I was here initially. Did the JPQ process. Once we got the questionnaires back to our office in mid-June, that's when we started doing our classification review and development. So that's where we took all of the information that we had from these questionnaires. We compared them and made sure that all the jobs that were similar were placed into, any jobs that were similar were grouped together so that the compensation would become similar as well. We conducted the market survey. And again, that information that I showed you for the organizations that were selected, the municipalities and the counties, that was a combination of what we came up with. We presented that to HR and your executive leadership team. They had a few tweaks that we added to it, so that's where we came up with those 11 organizations. So we're currently working on the pay plan development, and as of right now, we're doing the preliminary analysis, which is based on that draft report. So we still have just a couple of steps to go. We need to fine-tune that analysis so we can get everything revised where it needs to be. Ultimately, we'll come up with our final report and our presentation that we'll use for approval. So just to kind of give you an idea of what we did find over the course of our study, we did find out that Canton Township had the range width on the pay ranges is pretty narrow compared to your peers. We have about a 30% range width from minimum to maximum. Our idea to make you competitive is to expand those pay ranges wider. We've run across a lot of people that are maxed out right now at step 10 of the current pay plan. So what we want to do is we want to add some additional steps so that people that have been with the township for a while and don't have any more raises in their future as far as steps are concerned will have additional options based on our new pay plan. So none of that has been approved yet. It's still in the draft stage, but that's the direction that we're heading in, is making sure that there's more invested in staying with the township a little bit longer. So all of that information is going to become part of our final presentation and our recommendations as we get towards the end of the study later on this year. So as far as the timeline goes, anything in blue up at the top there, that's the stuff that we've already done, the questionnaires, the classification review, analyzing the market survey, and coming up with the draft report. From here, we just need to make those final adjustments to the draft report that we have right now. And again, that'll happen after we finish up our department head meetings later today. So that means by the end of this week and into next week, so we'll start making those changes that we get while we're here in person. And then we'll come up with our final report and work on getting that approved through your leadership. So I basically just want to reiterate on how impressed I was with the participation that we got on this study. I can tell you now that when I go on a future trip to do these kind of studies, you guys are going to be the gold standard. I'll find out right away because I'm going to Northwest Georgia in a couple of weeks. So if I don't see the kind of numbers that I saw here as far as participation, I'm going to be pretty spoiled. I'm going to be talking to the HR people down there and asking them to please do what you all did. Just for example, during the course of this study, there's a lot of conversation going on about particular jobs. And typically what we'll say is, let's see if there's a questionnaire for this job so we can see what the person presented versus what we're looking at here. A lot of times that was a if there was a questionnaire. For this particular study, there was no if. It was like, let's go to the questionnaire and see what was said about this particular job. That is a huge luxury. It gave us the information we needed to work with to come up with the best results we possibly could for the reports that we're working on now. So I just want to thank you all again for that. And like I said, I'm going to be spoiled from now on. So in a couple of weeks when I go to Georgia, we'll see if they're up to the task of matching your success. So with that, it's a pretty short presentation, I know, but I just want to give you a brief update, let you know that we appreciate everything that you've done so far, and that we're still on the timeline that we started with back in May. So we're making